I
I
said you were
have.
doing amazing. Keep going.
So I was still alive, huh? I was like, man, I don't want to screw his thing up. I don't know if I'm live or what's going on, but I'll just keep talking.
Yeah, you're alive. So first and foremost, man, talking about having a professional on, you just kept the ball going. I was like, man, he's good. He didn't freak out or nothing. Yeah, everything went blank and shut down. That has happened to me once before. I'm kind of afraid my MacBook might be on the way out. But I want to start and go back to the beginning of how you got into the trust and the protection that it offers. Like, how did that door open for you?
Sure. So years ago, I like to tell this story, I had this manufacturing business, and it was my first acquisition, and I was working the crazy hours like a lot of entrepreneurs do, and it felt like I was running in sand, right? Because all the money that I was making had to be poured back into new equipment and whatnot, and it seemed like everybody around me was getting richer. Vendors were getting richer, employees were getting richer, the government was getting richer. I was doing it, but it felt like, man, I should be getting a lot farther ahead than I was, right? And then I started hearing these stories about Warren Buffett saying that he paid a lower marginal income tax rate than his own secretary. And then I remember back in, was it the 2012 election, I think it was, when Obama ran against Mitt Romney. And Mitt Romney, I think he made like $20 million that year. And if I recall right, his tax rate was about 12% that he paid. And everybody was outraged. And I was like, well, he's not in jail, so this is awesome. This is awesome. He's doing something. What is he doing? And so I always wondered this, and I do a little research here and there, and I found a group of people that shared this system with me, and they've been doing it for years. This system's been around since 1913. And that's when the IRS code was made. Now, the difference was right around, if you go back to the turn of the century, about 95% of Americans work for themselves. They're apprentices or doctors or lawyers, and only 5% of people work for companies. Now we flip-flop them, right? 95% of people are W-2 employees, and only 5% of us are entrepreneurs. So for this to work, this system to work, yeah, first of all, you have to own your own business. That's the first thing that has to happen on this. And so I found this out, and I worked it for a few years. And then as I started becoming a business coach, I was at an event, and one of the participants had stood up and was talking with the moderator and said, man, I'm getting hammered on taxes this year. I got to figure this out. And the moderator goes, I got that figured out too. So I bumped into the moderator at lunch, and I said, hey, do you use this trust and foundation system? He goes, yep. And so I bumped into the guy that asked the question or made the comment. And I said, hey, let's grab dinner and I'll show you how this works. So I literally sketched it on a napkin sketch for him. He goes, can you set this up for me? Well, let me think on it. And so then I went out and I found some people that could work with and make sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, and said, yeah, I can quarterback this through for you. And we did. And so here we are 3 years later, helping people to defer their taxes indefinitely. For me to really show how this works, I really need to have a whiteboard, Pressley, but basically, yeah, we set your LLC up. So let's say it was your company. We'd set your LLC up so you own 1% of it, and we have a specific type of trust, business trust, that owns 99%. Now, the IRS will tell you that you can't just have an entity that's a pass-through entity. They don't like that. There has to be a reason that entity exists. So that business trust is set up for asset protection. And so what ends up happening is you're going to pay yourself just enough to pay for food, fun, and fashion for your W-2 income. So you're going to say you made $1 million, but you can live off 100,000. You pay yourself that $100,000 salary. The rest of it distributes over to your business trust as distribution income. And then that trust is owned by a family trust where you hold all your personal assets in it. And the way that income dives down, this is where I started talking about. That income goes from the business trust, the family trust, and when it does, it's investment income. And that's where the IRS tells you an investment income. You get to determine as the trustee whether it's an asset or if it's income. If it's income, you pay taxes. If it's an asset, it sits there and it defers. Well, if we don't have to pay taxes on it, why would we? And the interesting thing about when you dive into this stuff, it's interesting, Pressley, because I'm a business person. I'm not a tax person. Okay. I work with a CPA, and he's also an enrolled agent, which is the highest level of tax certification the IRS gives out. And so he'll actually do all the taxes for you and all that. I train business people how to use this system to maximize their saving, with the ultimate idea that I want to encourage them to give back to society more. So it's this whole concept of you're going to spend the money on taxes. Imagine if you're sitting at your desk and you're going to write $100,000 check to the IRS. Just what are the emotions behind that? I mean, are you happy that you're going to send your $100,000 off to the swamp? I don't care what side you're on.
Yeah, it's not usually.
No matter who we vote for, everybody agrees it's a swamp, right? Or, and then imagine you got to do that next year and the next year, and a decade goes by in my simple scenario, and you spent you've taken $1 million and you've expensed it out to the IRS, and I paid my fair share. Well, I don't know very many business owners that are happy about that check and feel like they've paid their fair share. It sure feels like we're paying more than our fair share. But what if there was a way that instead of doing that, you could take those dollars and you could put it toward the people and causes you care about most, whether it's your family, your church, other charitable causes. And so that's what we show people how to do. Entrepreneurs, I shouldn't just say people, it's entrepreneurs, because you could be making $10 million in W-2 income and this won't work for you.
Right. What's the average income or revenue that well, not even your client, what will be the entry level?
So an entry level would be around $400,000 in taxable income. Now we can set people up for less, and you definitely can, but we put a guarantee on it. And it's basically, you're going to save as much money in taxes the first full year you put this in place, or we refund the difference. So if we tell you, hey, it's going to cost you $75,000, and you give us the money, we train you up, it's first full year in, and you still make the $400,000, and you only save $65,000, we're going to give $10,000 back to you. But we haven't had to do that yet, because we're pretty confident in the numbers, and then when we're running them up front, and we'll also have we'll do some analysis of your previous year's tax returns. So if you want to know where you think you're going to be, you send Matt, the CPA, enrolled agent, the tax returns, and he'll do the analysis and say, here's where we think here's what you would have saved had you been in this system within a range, right? So it's relatively risk-free because you're gonna, like I say, you're gonna either expense that in the first year, that's $75,000, and give it to the IRS, or you're gonna invest it. You're gonna invest it because the next year you're not paying us. Now there may be there's some other things that Matt offers in the back end, bookkeeping services and things of that nature, but we're talking a $500 a month expenditure beyond that. And some clients would like to do that. Some say, no, I'll do it on my own, whatever they like, you know. But I love this concept because I get to work with business owners and entrepreneurs and help them be Mitt Romney.
Right. How long does the process typically take once they contact you to set up the entity?
We like to get about 4 weeks. So we're in a space right now where if somebody wants to get something done before the end of the year, it's going to be pretty tight. There's probably some things we can do to get the tax numbers set up, because the biggest thing is right now to get it set up for the end of the year is Sometimes it takes these banks about 2 weeks to look at the trust and approve your trust setup. And it's pretty pain-free for the client. You know, they're going to give us their information that we need to get set up. We're going to get all the entities set up, the trust created. The client's going to get a giant binder with a bunch of just line item. Here's what you need to do with QR codes to show videos and stuff. It's pretty simple. And it may sound like a lot of work when we're talking here, but really all we want you to do is get that binder, go get your bank accounts up, and then we're going to work with you. And you can familiarize yourself with all the trainings in there, or you jump on a phone call with me or one of the other people on the team, and we walk you through it. And we're with you for the year, that whole first full year. We're with you, making sure that you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, because the money's got to flow through this system in a specific way.
Right.
So
let's say I have a revenue from my company of 400,000, and 100,000 of that was going to go to taxes. Let's say this is year 2, and I've already paid for your services. The $100,000 that I would have paid in taxes, how does that money sit? Does it sit in an account, or is it dispersed to nonprofits, which we'll get into more in depth? Where does that money typically go?
Right. A lot of different options for folks. So one of the things that you're going to do is, in this system, is you're going to give up ownership of everything. I wanted to let that sit for a second. I want everybody to think about this. That means you're no longer going to own your house. You're no longer going to own your car. You're not even going to own that business, right? I just said you're going to give 99% of your business away. You have 1%. Now, why do we do that? It's asset protection, first of all. If they sue you, Pressley, for anything, you don't own anything anymore. You're a trustee. Here's the thing. You gave up ownership, but you never gave up control, because it's inside a trust. And it's an irrevocable, complex, irrevocable trust, which means you can't undo it, right? When somebody else, the way this sets up, but most people set up a revocable trust. What happens if you get sued and you have a revocable trust and you lose, then the winner of the lawsuit can essentially step into your shoes and disperse those assets as they see fit. In this case, they can no longer do that the way this trust is set up. So your question was, where does that money sit? There's a lot of different options. Some people will keep it in a business trust and they'll buy business assets. So like when I had a manufacturing business, if I needed to buy a new truck, a new laser, a new press brake, I would buy that piece of equipment, have it sit inside of my business trust, and then I lease it back to my LLC, or my LLC leases it from me. So the funds go in this circle. So if anything happens to that business, the assets held outside that business. That's the first piece. If you're talking about investing, we have some folks that buy real estate. And so most real estate investors, and I think that's a lot of the folks you deal with, right? Real estate investors, they'll set up an LLC for each property. So we have them do the same thing. You'll set up an LLC, but instead we're going to set it up as this 1%, 99% structure inside of the trust once again. And then the income off of that can flow into your family trust, where your private residence is held, and inside that family trust, your mortgage, taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities for your house, all paid with pre-tax dollars. Just like when you have a business and you have to pay rent on your building, same thing. That the money's flowing through, it has to pay for those expenses. Your healthcare expenses, your out-of-pocket healthcare expenses, paid for by the family trust. Education for the children, paid for by the family trust. It's set up in that family trust so your children are the beneficiaries. So the beautiful thing is, when I say indefinitely, that it defers taxes indefinitely could be tomorrow. Tomorrow you decide, hey, I want to go rent a private jet and go on a birthday party. It's 50 grand. I need the money. Excuse me. So you pull it out of your family trust. That's a taxable event. You're going to pay taxes on it. But it could be forever. Indefinitely could be forever. If you never did that, now it's your children. They take over the trust. And then it's your grandchildren, they take over the trust. And it just goes on, and it can spin off other trusts are allowed within this as well. So when I say indefinitely, it's just basically whenever the trustee decides to distribute money out to a beneficiary, that's when it becomes a taxable event.
Have you seen one industry or individuals from any particular industry gravitate towards this more than any other industry?
No, I wouldn't say there's one industry. I know in the last couple of years, the folks that were in the mortgage industry did really well with this. You know, there's so much business going on in the mortgage industry that if you had just put your nose in the grindstone and hustled, you had a lot of money on the table. And I know one fella, we had a couple people in the last year that had saved over $500,000. I'd say saved, I should say, use a different word, deferred. Right. Over $500,000, which means it can sit in investment accounts and it can grow like your 401k pre-tax. Right? So it's growing. One of the other tools that's really powerful inside this, and this is where we would align you with the Be Your Own Bank fellas, and that's somebody, Pressley, that I think Chris Noggle is somebody you should really talk to. I mean, he will. Basically, what he does something that's going to blow your client's mind. But then what we do is like putting turbochargers on. Okay. But one of the things he does is I'm not a life insurance guy, but he is. But he'll create these whole life policies, and then you put paid up additions in there. And then the money continues to compound indefinite, uninterrupted, even if you take loans out against it. So you have $100,000 in there and you're making 6% on it every year. And if you pull out $100,000 to take a loan against it, it's still going to compound inside your policy as if it was still sitting there. So it's a really powerful tool.
I was actually going to ask you about that.
Yeah. And so that's another way. So if you needed to take that $50,000 joyride for your birthday, you could take a loan off your life insurance policy. And then it's backed by the death benefit on the policy.
It's funny you say that, because we actually have a client of ours on the team is coming back from, I won't disclose where, but somewhere in Cali to Texas every weekend, and it's about $40 grand, roughly $40 grand a trip. So yeah, nail on the head there. I'll get there soon. I'm not quite at 40 grand a weekend to travel, but we'll get there soon.
Well, you remember I'm in Houston too, so I'm just a car ride away from the airport too. So when you got that private jet, I'll serve cocktails for you.
What side of town are you on?
I'm down in Siena.
Okay, it's nice down there.
Yeah.
I was looking to see if my partner has joined. Sometimes he joins and sometimes he doesn't. Do you see, and this is all opinionated because nobody knows, but do you see the tax code or anything changing with the upcoming administration, whoever that might be?
Yeah, I don't think so. Here's the other thing. I mean, you never know, right? But the reason I don't think this is going to change is because both sides use this. This was the uber elite and wealthy. And basically the way the story goes on this was Congress needed to put in, wanted to create taxes back in 1913. And I'll try to remember the numbers. It was the lowest rate was 1%, and the highest rate was going to be 7%. And you had to make, I think it was $14 million in today's dollars to have a 7% tax rate. And I think it was 1% for 500,000 in today's dollars. And the rich were like, no way, we're not paying 7% in taxes. We're not doing it. And back then, you know, it was the elite that put people in Congress. And so they capitulated and they came up with the trust and foundation system. They said, that's fine. You don't have to pay these taxes, but you can't own the stuff anymore. And so this piece of the tax code is, I'd have to get into it with Matt again, but I think it's like 10 to 15 pages long, and it's been the same 10 to 15 pages since 1913.
Wow.
And in the meantime, what they've done is they created this way to tax the middle class, and they continue to tax the middle class over and over and over. And that's where they get the money from. And here's another little secret behind this. For those of you that are making that $400,000 a year or more in taxable income, you are likely to get audited on average about 2.5% of the time. I'm winging the number a little bit roughly there, which means about every 40 years, if you're making that kind of money, you're going to get audited. That's not too bad. You know, that's twice in your lifetime, maybe. If it's inside of a trust, you have a 0.1% chance.
Wow.
So once every 1,000 years.
That's crazy. Do they kind of look at it like it's a waste of time to try to dig around the trust because it's too protected?
You know, I don't know really what the reasoning behind that is. I found that was an interesting stat. I found that about 18 months ago, and it just blew me away. I just went, wow, you know. And then there's another thing, like some of these trusts, like most of for the way that many of my clients do this, the business trust, it's an asset holding. It holds assets, but any of the income that it makes through the year, it all gets distributed down into the family trust, which means that trust shows $0 in taxable income on its return anyway. And then the same thing with the family trust. It's got a lot of expenses that are being paid with pre-tax dollars. And then if you're smart, you'll stuff your life insurance policies full of cash. It's an investment, and it's a non-taxable event. So maybe it's just that, you know, if you get audited, they're going to just make sure that you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's. But look, what we tell folks is hide nothing, protect everything. That's our motto, right? We're not going to hide anything from the IRS. So many business owners will go, I've got this seminar out in Vegas, and it's on a Thursday. So I'm going to fly first class with my wife out to the seminar in Vegas. And then she's going to have a spa day and all this stuff when I'm at the event. And then we're going to stay all weekend long and come home. And they expense the entire trip, wife, meals, spa, everything to the business. Where all business owners are on some kind of spectrum. Some say absolutely. The early on in your career, like, I will never do that. And then by the end, you're like, oh yeah, we're going multiple times. Yeah. It's the way everybody has their owner's yah-yah that they hide inside of their income statements, right? But we tell folks, let's just stop playing that game. If you're going to Vegas, then you go and you pay for your portion on the business and pay for the other part for your wife off to the side. We're already going to be reducing our taxes so much. Let's not worry about that. That's, you know, tripping over dollars to pick up pennies, the way I look at it. So hide nothing. We're going to tell the IRS, I made this dollar and I went and put it from here to here and here to here and here to here. I'm going to be transparent on where it went. And then protect everything is this whole structure protects everything because you no longer own it. The beauty behind all of that is that you can remain in integrity with yourself. You don't have to play these games. You know, so many of us in business, it's when you feel like you've been taken advantage of from the government that you start paying for that trip with your business. And we no longer need to do that. And ultimately what it boils down to, Pressley, inside of this is you get to determine how much tax you're willing to pay. And what's the fair share according to you and your heart and integrity. And look, you know, our newest foundation is called The Secret to Living is Giving. and stole that right from Tony Robbins. It's a story he told, but I believe it. You know, if you are able to give back more to society, more comes back to you. Same kind of lesson I teach to my daughters. You can't run out of love. So if you give more love, you'll get more back. Right. But if you try to hoard it, and you won't have any.
Right. What is it? Inversely proportional.
Exactly.
How many people in the trust setup would one need? Are you able to do this as one person, or should you have, 2 or 3 people that you trust or that's in the family that gets put in there?
So your family trust is going to be the way we're setting it up. It's either an individual's going to set it up and be the trustee, or it's a husband and wife team that's going to have it. I suppose you could set, eventually, I guess they could get large enough. I mean, the Rockefellers have been doing this for years. And if you look, they have their family retreat every year, and hundreds of them go to this, right? I can't tell you exactly how they're set up. I don't know if they split and they still have one trust. And look, I'm first generation. My clients are first generation doing this. So by the time we're on the second, third generations, I'm going to be gone, and that's going to be for my teams to figure that shit out.
Yeah.
But I know it happens, and I've seen the IRS tax returns on it, and I can make an assumption that somebody like Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, or the Clintons, both use this. You know, they both have their own private foundations. Trump never filed a private tax return for years until he needed a casino. And I don't know if you remember that debate, and Hillary brings up the fact that he never filed these tax returns until he needed the casino. And she goes, you know what that makes him? And he goes, that makes me smart. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. He'd be in jail if he was doing something wrong. Here's the thing that everybody should be aware of on this. There are two, and this is what the first enrolled agent that I worked with when I got set up, I was like, this sounds too good to be true. And I don't want to spend any time in the federal fund house. And he said, JP, there's 2 words you need to be familiar with. And one is tax evasion and one is tax avoidance. Evasion is when you hide things from the government. You don't tell them it happened. That's evasion. That gets you in jail, right? Now, that's why our motto is hide nothing. We're not hiding anything. There's no evasion here. Tax avoidance is expected. And you can find quotes from justices that tell you this. But if you even look at the IRS tax code, there is about something like 30 pages that tell you how to pay your taxes in the whole 10,000, 20, hundreds of thousands of pages. Sorry, I got an auto light here. 100,000 pages or whatever. There's only like 30 pages on telling you how to pay your taxes. The rest of the code is how to avoid paying taxes.
Wow.
And the government does this for economic reasons. They you get a child tax credit. Why? Because they want to have that middle class people funneling money back for certain things, or there might be a gas credit or an electric car credit. So they're encouraging people to buy electric cars because they want society to change a certain way. So it's really interesting that the code, as I've learned this over the last few years, it's really designed to change the behavior of the society by giving tax breaks.
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
What would you say, if there is any, the best time of year to do this?
I'd say the earlier in the year. I mean, I'll tell you, when would now be a good time to do it? So we had one client last year that got it set up in January. He's able to make a move and save $50,000. Right with it, or sorry, did I say January and December? Got it done in December. right within the last week of the year. So it can be done. We've got another fellow that we're working with right now that if he gets set up for the end of the year, he's got $1 million extra check coming in from a deal that he brokered. And that, because he won't need any of that for food, fun, or fashion, he'll be able to protect 100% of that $1 million. That would save him, without taking our fee into account, it would save him $540,000 in 1 month. So it would definitely be in your best interest to have the phone call and see if it works for you. It doesn't work for everybody. I just had a call yesterday with a fellow that I was certain was going to work, and as soon as you told me how everything was set up, I'm like, it's not going to work. There's some other things that we could do to help him down capital gains. This is the other piece on this, is if you want to avoid capital gains, you have these assets inside your business trust. So here's an example. A client had a business that he sold, going to take an $800,000 gain on it. So before he sold it, we set up his share of the company in this 1%, 99% structure. He got the $800,000 gain. $8,000 had to go to his personal tax return. So he paid capital gains on 8,000, 1%, right? 792,000 went to the business trust, and then it was reinvested back inside of the family trust, where he's avoiding taxes indefinitely. Indefinitely. Otherwise, that move, if he hadn't made that move, that would have cost him $160,000 in taxes right there.
Wow.
At 20%.
So would you suggest this over a 1031?
Yeah, so this is what I tell people.
That's part of the presentation.
Exactly. What I tell folks is, inside of the 1031 space versus 1041, is the 1041 is going to eliminate 99% of the gain. This kind of showed you guys how that works, and 100% of the pain. You don't need to worry about switching properties out. You don't need to find a property in 45 days and oops, it fell through and now I'm hosed. I'm going to have to pay that gain. You don't have to monkey around with it. The one thing is with the 1031, you don't have a big $75,000 roughly, depending on the complexity of your system. You don't have this big fee to set it up. You can do that on the down low, but in this case, that fee, remember, is one time. So we're looking at people that are high net worth, not high net worth, high tax dollar earners or payers. And so they can understand, hey, I'm going to pay this anyway. Let's get it paid 1 year as an investment. And now we're going to start putting some hay in the barn, because we're going to defer those taxes forever. And think about, you're paying your kids college education with pre-tax dollars. And I know there's some 529 plans out there for college education. You don't need that anymore. You control it. It's the same thing. You no longer need a 401k. We keep being told by the government that we need to take our money and give it to somebody else and lose control over it. And if an emergency happens and I need it back, I got to pay taxes and penalties to get my own money back out.
Yeah.
We don't have to do that anymore. We can control our money. And if we do pull it out for personal reasons, we'd have to pay some tax on it, but we don't have to pay penalties. And then, like I say, there's still some ways around, putting it into a life insurance policy and pulling it out of there as a loan. There's no tax paid on a loan. So there's other things that we can do. And my team and Matt's team work with our clients when they have those unique situations that come up. There's a lot of fun stuff. I have one client that uses the 501c3 as a bank as well to buy Airbnb properties. And then the property is making money back in the business trust, and the money flows right back through. It's just this big circle.
Under
it's
a
almost
501c3?
like, what's that?
Under a 501c3?
Yeah, so the 501c3 is owned by or the only place you're going to put money into your 501c3 is through your family trust. You personally, let's say you have it, Pressley, you personally put zero money into it. Your family trust does, okay? because you personally didn't pull money out and put money into it, you can take money out in the form of a loan. Now, normally you can't do that because it's called self-dealing. So if you put money into a 501c3 personally, you can't ever take a loan out. It's self-dealing, but you never put money in there. Your family trust did.
Right.
And so now you got to say you have $1 million sitting inside your 501c3. You want to buy a piece of real estate, you can loan that out to another LLC, called the Airbnb LLC. We set it up in that 1%, 99% structure. The loan payment is made back to the 501c3. The profits flow back into the business trust and the family trust, and potentially even back into the charity as well. And so you're able to avoid the scams of banks and stuff. And one last thing I want to say about this life insurance policy, why it's so powerful. If you doubt for a minute the power of life insurance policies, research who the largest life insurance policy holders are in the country, and you'll find that they're all banks like Wells Fargo, US Bank, Bank of America, Chase. They have, I'm talking like hundreds of billions of dollars that they own in life insurance policies because they play this game inside the banking system as well. It's really incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm scratching the surface on that because that's not my expertise. But I tell you what, you like I said, after this call, Pressley, let's reach out to me and let me get you in touch with Chris Noggle, because he will definitely blow your crew's mind here with the Be Your Own Bank system for sure.
Man, I keep checking to see if my partner joins, because I know he would have some questions, or more than anything, probably just clarify stuff on my end for the audience. He kind of does a lot of this stuff. He's our securities attorney. He's our partner as well, but our securities attorney on the team. Well, normally I would ask, how this stuff started impacting your life, but you're more so providing a service. I typically interview investors and how they grew, in their business or investments or apartments or whatever. But in this case, you're providing a specific service. So most important thing, how do you want people to reach out to you if they don't come in January?
Well, the best way to reach out to the man that runs my schedule, his email is gp@archonusa.com. It's ARCHONUSA.com. And let me see if I've got his phone number here real quick. It is 503-702-6630. And then you can also find us at archonusa.com on the web. And there's all of our different programs on there. And ultimately, we end up turning you all this over to Matt Jones, CPA. And eventually, there's going to be another, we're in discussions right now on bringing on another CPA firm through acquisition. Because we're just finding our clients are saying, hey, we want one-stop shop. We want you to set this up. We want to keep it. You want us to do the books and keep us in compliance. We want you to do our taxes. Then hey, we got this extra money. Who can set us up with investments? I got these partners over here. We're not an investment house. And then, what can I do inside of life insurance? Let's go over here. So we're building up a community of folks that, the other thing is on this, we do a monthly call the first Tuesday of every month, and it's open where we do some basic training on this, or folks will come that are in the group and they've got some kind of advanced issue they want to discuss, and they can bring it to the community. So everybody's growing and learning. We record those, chop those up in the Q&A, and have QR codes. So we're continually adding to this to the information that our clients can get, so they can get onto the site and do it. Like I say, they can look at a FAQ page, but instead of just having a typed up answer, they can hit the QR code and they can watch the 3-minute to 15-minute discussion on their question.
Wow, that's
pretty
smart.
cool.
That's very smart. I have a dumbed down version of that with FAQs on the website and some videos and stuff. But that's a genius idea. That's a really, really good idea. Last question for you. What have you found the reason to be, because you're dealing with only accredited investors for the most part. I can't imagine that it would even make sense financially for a non-accredited investor to do business with you guys or use your services. What reason have you found for the accredited investors that you deal with, or just high net worth people, that their resources, CPAs, attorneys, whatever, have not told them about this product or this process?
I think most folks, what I'm finding in the CPA space in particular, is they've been trained up to find the deductions and make the deductions. Remember that tax code's 100,000 pages. And so they all live in the same space. Now, when I first found out about this, I was with one of the top 10 accounting firms in the country doing our taxes for our manufacturing business. And I called up Lenny when I heard about this, and I couldn't see him because of the phone call, but I could just imagine his eyes glazed over. And it's a blue ocean space. And frankly, what we're doing is bringing this down. It's not, Pressley, you don't need to be an accredited investor for us. I'm not an investment place. I am a strategy for entrepreneurs to defer taxes. Now, beyond that, they can go find their own investment people. I've got some folks that I'll recommend, but I'm not tied in. I don't get paid by those folks. I'm interested in the business owner that is the small business owner. You know, it can go up to as large as whatever, but the small business owner that can make that difference that we want to make in our own lives by getting into business, taking the risk, being willing to do what nobody else is willing to do, or 95% of Americans aren't willing to do. You know, putting ourselves out there. Nobody understands the phrase, heavy is the head that wears the crown, except for the man writing the payroll checks or the woman writing the payroll checks, right? Then they understand it. When my guys would go home on Friday, we had a manufacturing shop. So I had all these blue collar workers. When they'd go home to go buy their 6-pack on Friday, their weekend was over. And mine wasn't. Because even if I was home, my mind is thinking about what problem I've got, right?
Yeah.
And so this is a way for me to bring peace to the people that I care about, the small business entrepreneurs. Now, there are accounting firms that are set up as family office firms, right? You heard that term before?
I was going to ask you how, if you not funnel, that's a good word to use, but if you directed or seen anybody direct their money into a family office or create a family office from it.
Yeah, that's exactly what was happening. Matter of fact, the guy that's been working with us the last couple of years, he got into this about 20 years ago when a couple 9-figure net worth families hired him to do this and trained him up on it. And because their family had been doing it for generations, and we was their family office in essence, and then he would take a few other clients off to the side as well. And so I worked with him. But generally, that's what the high net worth people, this is what they're doing. They have a family office that's running all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. We're not there yet. We're, like I say, 3 years in on this piece, and we're just, we've got some. I'm really excited about next year and what we're bringing on with the whole accounting the CPA acquisition, partnering with Matt on that piece as well, and what we're going to be able to do, building up the network of companies that work together to help the small business owner. Hey, look, when I was in manufacturing, I needed to focus on manufacturing. I needed somebody else to take care of all this stuff. We want to be that easy button for them.
Right. Yeah. Let's end the show with tell us from your grand experience, what are some of the gold nuggets and the secrets of how you were able to collapse your time?
Oh man, it's simple. This is really simple, Pressley. Find somebody that has done something that you want to do and get in proximity with them one way or the other and model them. Model what they did. Success leaves clues, right? So I can't think of something right off the top of my head that could align with somebody. If you, this guy right back here, the GOAT, right? Well, I don't know if he's the GOAT. He's the second GOAT for his position anyway, but the Mamba mentality, right? Find out what somebody's done, model them in collapse time, and just be willing to out hustle anybody for that period of time. And then you can set yourself up to be a business owner that is directing the shots and being a true entrepreneur. Instead of being, if you're working with me on the business end of things, I'm going to help show you how to create the machine on your business so it runs itself, so that you are working on the business end of the business. The business is working for you instead of you working for the business and just having hopefully a high paying job. But that's what a lot of us get into. I remember my first business, when I first got into that, I went 5 years without a vacation, first 5 years. And when I look back, I go, man, if I'd have found somebody inside of that space that I could have modeled, I could have collapsed that down to a couple of years easily.
Right.
So find somebody who's been there and done that and model them and collapse the time. That's the biggest piece.
Wow. I will definitely, it's like you were reading my emails. I've sent a couple emails out today, and that's one of my themes, success leaves clues. So I got all these books here. I'm looking for the clues.
That's exactly what it is, man. That's exactly what it is. So, Pressley, thanks for inviting me on this. And
I'm loving your gold nuggets, man. I can't wait to dive deeper and be one of your clients.
All right, great. Well, I would appreciate that. And hey, we need to since we're here in town anyway, we need to go grab lunch or something soon.
I'm already on top of it. I'm about to text my assistant, you know Julie. I'm about to contact Julie and have her set up something with you guys.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, I'm excited.
All right, brother, man. Thanks for inviting me. You have a great evening.
You too. See you next time. Bye.
Okay. Take care.